yesterday, which outlined the economic reconstruction and recovery plan for South Africa. Now, the president said that government is determined to create jobs for both those South Africans who lost their jobs due to COVID-19 lockdown, as well as those who had lost their employment prior to the pandemic. And he also said that South Africa would have a new electricity grid by 2022. Kganki Matabane is the Chief Executive Officer of the Black Business Council, and he joins us now to talk about this plan. Mr. Matabane, thanks for your time. Welcome to Morning Live once more.
Morning, thank you very much. The importance of any policy is implementation. And we've seen over the years that the capacity of the state is not necessarily there to implement. So we really hope that the National Economic Recovery Council will operate the same way as the one that was busy with the coronavirus, because we've seen how it could be agile, how the state could be agile, how decisions making can be as quick as possible. And then if that becomes the case, I think the plan will be implementable and implemented. Because otherwise, if it's not implemented, then we'll be sitting here in 10 years' time. But I think having worked with the state for the past 4 to 6 months, we've seen how things can be done as quickly as we expected them to be done.
So speak to us about that, because as you say, you've been an integral part of those discussions at NEDLAC. What is it that stands out for you about this particular plan?
I think the most important part is that there are responsible people and responsible committees. For example, the operational Bulindlela between the National Treasury and the presidency. I think that will then speed up decision-making and intervention processes. And I think some of the deadlines that are there are important. For example, the issue of energy security is important for policy certainty, because anyone who wants to localize or reindustrialize or beneficiate the minerals that we have in the country will need to have certainty and surety that at a certain point in time, we'll never have load shedding. So in 2 years' time, that should be the case. If that's not the case, I think we need to see consequence management. Those who are supposed to make sure that we don't have load shedding should face the consequences. Otherwise, if that doesn't happen, we'll have a challenge. And the issue of creating jobs, the president also mentioned that 40% of the state procurement should be reserved for women. But unfortunately, with the current legislation, which is the triple PFA, that is not possible. Hence, we hope that National Treasury, as the president said, will speed up the process of the public procurement bill, because that's the only place where you can then slot in the 40% for women, 40% procurement for young people, for people living with disabilities, and Black people as well. So if we want to see this plan be driven by economic transformation, the policies that are there are supposed to support it. And that can only be done through state procurement, through the public procurement bill when it becomes an act. The other matter, I think, is the major infrastructure build and drive that we've seen. We're also saying Black business and small businesses and businesses who are owned by women should not be a by the way. It should form the integral part of the plan from the beginning, not a by the way when the launch is made and then you see that people are saying, let's include Black people. That's how we think economic transformation can drive all this.
But that's curious, Mr. Matabane, when you talk about this, and I am assuming you are referring to the launch of the Mooikloof megacity project, because you're saying, when we look at the transformation imperatives, they shouldn't be a by the way. So you've been involved in these discussions around the infrastructure development projects that will be undertaken as well. So how come you're mentioning that now? What did your discussions involve at the time when you were engaging at NEDLAC?
Yeah, we're not engaging in specific projects. We're just basically talking high level. So The Moetloof one happened last week, but we had met with Dr. Ramaphosa to share with us the plan regarding the other mega projects that are coming. So I'm basically then referring to those ones that are coming. To say we were talking to them, to Dr. Ramaphosa and the other people involved to say, let's start now to make sure that during the planning phase, the Black businesses, women-owned businesses are an integral part of what we're supposed to do. And that should happen with localization. When we're talking about localization, it talks about, for example, when we must then decide, we must source all the materials from local businesses and small businesses when we're busy dealing with this major infrastructure drive. Also, I think from a manufacturing point of view, we've seen during the COVID pandemic that we, depending on other countries, and we're creating jobs in other countries. So we need to reverse that and do an import replacement. But even during that time, that should be driven by economic transformation.
Just two final questions as we wrap it. Firstly, with regard to energy security, and you talk about having that situation basically sorted out by 2022. But what about the just energy transition that has been spoken about, and again, the transformation imperative that underpins that?
Yeah, we are working also with the Department of Minerals and Energy on that, ensuring that the policies that are there, for example, when the Window 5 opens, it should create more space for Black businesses, mainly through funding. We're speaking to the funding institutions, because if you don't have access to funding, even if the opportunities are opened, you may not be able to participate, because these projects are costing a lot of money, and you may not be able to participate if you don't have access to funding. So we were basically also discussing that to say, once the window opens, let's bring funding partners so that then Black people who don't necessarily have the necessary funding can get funded.
Finally, the 800,000 jobs in the intermediate term that was mentioned by the president. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we could have been more ambitious, because the country is in a crisis. We have lost 2.2 million jobs in the past 4 to 5 months, and we need to create more jobs instead of 800,000. We need to be more ambitious, because when you're in a crisis, you have to be ambitious, so that if you miss the targets, at least you miss the target, but you still achieve a significant number of jobs. We need to create jobs. We need to support small businesses, and by that way, we will be able to create jobs, because that has happened all over the world. Countries are able to create jobs by supporting small businesses through opportunities in procurement and access to funding.
Well, let's leave it there for today. Thank you so much. And that was Kganki Matabane, the CEO of the Black Business Council, talking to us about their views and, of course, reaction to government's economic reconstruction and recovery plan. Let's take a quick break before Valen brings you the sport.